Next call is a split call. Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look at which microphone I'm talking into. Thank you. I'd like to take a short call on this bill. And this piece of legislation, this piece of law, is a good piece of law. The Select Committee, I want to make a couple of comments about the good work that the Select Committee has done on it. I want to particularly mention the officials, because the officials have worked very hard to make this bill work for consumers and have put an awful lot of effort into it, and they do deserve a special mention for that. And the Commerce Select Committee works very hard on the legislation that comes before it, and works cooperatively and collaboratively around most bills that sit before it. So I do want to make that point. And the point about this piece of legislation is that it's about looking at how in tough economic times that you can make sure that consumers are protected, and that is very important. It's unfortunate, though, that at this very moment that consumers are not being protected in another environment. And, I'd like to, while pointing to the importance of this bill as a good, strong piece of legislation in the making, it may be that we can have a good debate around it and the arguments that went backwards and forwards on it. But what we're seeing at the moment is a massive piece of hypocrisy with that government over there intervening in a regulatory process which is going to force up prices of phone and internet bills for New Zealanders, with the Prime Minister intervening, saying he won't rule out legislation, and ultimately what that will end up being a situation where the consumers of New Zealand lose out at a time when they shouldn't be. And when the laws that have been made by this government 2 years ago through the Telecommunications Act and were hotly debated in this House, there were warnings made around what might or might not occur. Well, sure enough, it has come to bear and now the government has got itself in a pickle, and there's article after article appearing on this particular issue, including the former Telecommunications Commissioner, who came out yesterday and said it was an unprecedented move for the government to intervene in this process, intervene in a way that is going to affect consumers, Mr. Speaker. It's going to affect consumers adversely if the government intervenes in the way that it says it's likely to do. So I want to make that point because it's an extremely important point, that while on the one hand, here we are debating a piece of legislation that's about making putting in place a more fair regime for consumers, particularly and bringing legislation up to date in the online environment. And there's been an extraordinary amount of good work that's been done on a piece of consumer legislation. But on the other hand, we have a situation where consumers are going to be sold down the river. All in favour of propping up the profits of a company, a privately owned company, Chorus, in order to suit the will of the government and its intentions around ultra-fast broadband. $12 a month is quite a lot of money for the poorest families and people on low incomes. $12 a month is at least what consumers are going to be stuck with in their phone and internet prices at a time when those prices should be going down. And this issue has created widespread horror and uncertainty for the whole of the telco industry, which is seeking stability, which is what this piece of legislation, this bill, the consumer bill, is meant to be providing, is a more secure environment where everybody knows where they stand. But instead, in an unprecedented move, the Prime Minister has intervened, said he won't rule out legislation. The industry has been sent into turmoil. There's this prospect of judicial reviews reviews of any final decisions that the Commerce Commission do make. And this is at a time when there should be certainty and stability in the industry so that the telcos can get on with investing and where innovation can occur, more services get developed, which will create more competition and ultimately be where consumers will be better
Sorry to
off.
interrupt the honourable member. I call David Clendon.
Speaker.